Hey guys, it's Hein again. Welcome to a series on Copilot and specifically Copilot Studio to see how we can build agents and deploy them to our organization. With the low code perspective, previously we spent a lot of time looking at a very pro code approach using tools like Semantic Kernel, but we're going to take a bit of a look at how we do this in the low code world. So without further ado, let's get started building our first agent. Okay, so navigating to copilotstudio.microsoft.com or using the little app launcher Microsoft gives you to get to this page, you'll be greeted with some agents that you've built or have worked on, and we can explore some of the just out of the box agents that Microsoft give us, and obviously the learning resources. What we're going to do today is I'm going to navigate to agents and I'm going to select new agent. And Microsoft's been kind enough to give us some AI to help build these agents, and we're going to give a brief description of what our agent is supposed to do. So I'm going to go a recruitment agent that will help with hiring managers with policies and procedures, as well as some automated processes. And we're going to get to that in a few videos, because what's really cool about these agents is that they're not necessarily limited to a chat interface like we're mostly used to. We can really run agents autonomously, triggering from business events like we did with Copilot Studio or Power Automate. So it took a couple of seconds, but Copilot suggested a name. I'm going to just accept the name. Yes, that is fine. And it will go on thinking for a few more seconds. All right, so that took a few prompts. Copilot trying to just explore the options that I asked for, instructions around which actions it should add, which knowledge bases, etc., etc. Obviously, we're going to be creating all of those manually. So I said just go ahead and create. Now we can see here that we've got a basic name, description, and some general instructions. This is more on the system prompt perspective, and we'll see here that we've got the ability to add knowledge, and we'll go through all of these in detail, but loosely speaking, this will most of the time be SharePoint and public websites. Tools are very interesting. That allows our agents to take actions, and triggers we're going to explore. So what starts this conversation? So like receiving an email or a document being uploaded to SharePoint, something along those lines. This is the real legwork that I like Copilot to take over, or AI in general to take over, is just coming up with those first initial set of prompts for users to use. It's just legwork that we don't have to do. We also have the ability to test our agent, and this is a very useful thing. It allows us to iterate quite quickly through the development cycle. On the top here, we'll see a lot of tabs that correspond to some of the sort of UI elements that we've got on the page. Knowledge and tools and topics being ones that we've already looked at. Topics are interesting. It's very interesting that Microsoft kept this in. I quite like it, actually. It's the idea that when a user starts a specific conversation, the example we'll use is when they talk about terminating an employee, because this is a recruitment bot, not a termination bot. We'll just say, sorry, I'm not going to talk about this, please contact HR. So a very, very nice way to do that. So we can test our agent very quickly. So what can you tell me about recruitment? Obviously, we're not expecting too much right now because this is a vanilla agent. It's just using the language model, no real knowledge sources for it to look at. We'll address that in a second. Okay, so some basics. It's going to be very generic, but just to show you how quickly we can iterate through this whole development of our agent. So if I were to go back and just quickly take a look at my agent, what Copilot's put together for me, and I would always suggest you do this. The general instructions: assist hiring managers with recruitment policies and procedures. That's fine. Provide guidelines for interview scheduling. We don't have a document to do that, so I'm happy for the language model just to take that over. Automate recruitment processes. All right, we're going to add that later. And ensure compliance, offer tips and best practices, and respond to queries. All right, so all that looks pretty much in line with what we would want. If we go into edit this, we have a considerable amount of space. We've got about 8,000 words we can use here to just explain what this agent does. Now, we want to be very specific and very targeted with these instructions, to try and avoid vague sort of instructions and vague terminology. So I'm going to say here, never respond to queries about termination of employees. All right, so we're going to do something similar with topics later, but I just want to illustrate that we can add that. And I have a question about terminating an employee. All right, so what we're expecting now to see is not currently configured for this agent. So that's good, right? That's exactly what we want to see. It is interesting that I picked the topic, so that's fine. We'll get back into refining this whole agent in a second. What we want to do, because I think most of the time this is what we would be doing, is I'm going to open up a new tab and just open up a hiring site over here, that we just have a simple document library with one procedure document, our hiring policy, uploaded about an hour ago. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go back to my agent. Because what we want to do now is we want to start adding some local context, some local knowledge to our agent. So go to my knowledge tab and I'm going to go and add some knowledge. Now, as I said, just from personal experience, public websites and SharePoint is pretty much where most of either data comes from or most of the knowledge comes from. So I'm going to click on SharePoint and we can browse for items or just paste in the URL. Now, the site that I created is a very new site, so it might not pop up through SharePoint, might just not have indexed it yet. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to paste in the URL. So this is something that caught me out the first time. Be aware of it, that when adding these sites, if it's a brand new SharePoint site and you've just uploaded some content, it's worth knowing that SharePoint might take a minute to even index the document, and obviously without it being indexed, the agent won't know about it. So I'm just going to say here, local information about our hiring policies and procedures. So this description is quite important because all of this gets bundled up and sent to the language model to understand what capabilities it has, what data sources it has, and those kind of things. So I'm going to click on add for now, and we are going to probably take a look at adding a public website as well. So we might as well do that while we're busy. So I'm going to quickly grab public. So I just quickly grabbed the URL from the New South Wales Public Service Commission, where I live in Sydney. So I'm going to go add some knowledge, and I'm going to use a public website, and I'm going to paste in the link. Now, the first thing I wanted to show here is that we can't have websites that are more than 2 levels deep, which is also something that caught me off guard the first time I did this. So I'm just going to take out a few levels, just maybe 1 and 2 over there, and then it's happy. And you also need to confirm that you've got ownership. Now, it's best practice to just use sites that you actually have legal access to do the content or to use the content. This is public knowledge, and it's on the New South Wales public website, so I'm going to use that, but always check that you have permission to use the content as part of the data source, as part of your agent. So I'm going to just quickly name this, call this New South Wales legislation. It's not the legislation website, but just to make the point to the agent what it is about. Legislative information about employment in New South Wales. Okay, and I'm going to add that. All right, so what we're expecting to see is the ability for Copilot to now say, all right, well, when we've got questions about hiring or when we've got questions about the New South Wales legislation, just it's stuff that it now has access to. So if I go back to my testing page and I just quickly say, who is the owner of the hiring policy, I'm expecting to see a role as it's sort of in the document. Give it a second to think. You can see here that it is searching through the various knowledge sources, and I can see here that it actually references the document, and if I click on it, it will open the document in SharePoint for us, and we can see here that it has my hiring policy. I'm not going to go too deep into the hiring policy because obviously that is confidential company information. So we're going to leave it at that for today. What we've got here is an agent where we've got some basic instructions. We have some knowledge, and we've got the ability to link it to just sort of do a general search. We're going to not do that for today. And we're going to explore what tools and triggers look like and topics in the coming videos. The last thing I want to go over today is channels. So by default, we'd want to deploy this to Teams, and because the ultimate objective is to get this available in Copilot Studio or in Copilot Chat rather, and we've got the ability to publish this to SharePoint. SharePoint has native agents. This is to replace the SharePoint agent or at least add this agent to a SharePoint site, which is much more powerful than just the native SharePoint agents. We're not going to take a look at that today, but what we're going to just take a look at is if I click on Teams, it will say, all right, it's going to make this available in M365 Copilot. That's perfect. That's what we want to do. Add the channel. I'm not going to publish yet. And we'll see here that because we're using Microsoft Authentication, we'll go through the settings in the next video. It's only available in Teams and SharePoint. Obviously, if we're saying that authenticated users can use my agent, well, then the public can't use it. So before we wrap up and publish our agent, I want to make one more change. I'm going to go and add a logo just to make my agent more identifiable, and save that, and I'm going to publish. So what this does, it basically makes it available for us to consume in Copilot Chat, which we will take a look at, and we'll also take a look at how do we share this with other users, and more importantly, as from an organizational perspective, how do we control who's got access and those kind of things. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I will see you in the next video.